let's just go to Arsenal. I would say I'd write them off, which won't make the man who's doing the sound here today, Andrew, very happy. But they really do disappoint in a big way at times, don't they?
Yeah, well, they have done for quite a few years. I mean, when he was building a new stadium, we could say, well, he didn't have the money to do this. I think he has the money now. I think he spent quite a bit of money. Again, you look at his philosophy, and I think it's all about keeping the ball as well. I don't think there's any real emphasis on defending or being really tough enough when the chips are down, as we saw at Everton and at Manchester City when the matches. I thought that was like typical Arsenal as we know them today. Again, Didi mentioned that about seeing out the game. I think once Everton picked up the physical aspect of it, and Manchester City did as well, then they collapsed. And I don't think there's any real heart in the team. There's no Vieira there, there's no Roy Keane there to really get them going again when the going gets tough. I mean, I think on their day, as you said, they'd win 4-0, they'd win 5-0, but I don't think they have that heart and the consistency to actually win the Premiership.
Didi?
Well, I stuck my neck out a few weeks ago and said, if you've got a few shillings spare, stick him on Arsenal. But if you did back the name, I will reimburse you.
I can absolutely assure you, Didi, that I did not back Arsenal to win the Premier League, and I think
it's not.
I think I don't want to get too personal about this because you're a great friend of mine, but you did, I think, also tip Manchester United to win the league, and I think you may have done the treble because at one stage you were sweet on Manchester City as well.
No,
Didi?
I've never.
Didi?
I've never been sweet. I always thought, even when they won the first 8 or 9 games, I always thought they were poor favourites. So, that wasn't the case. But with the other two, yes, you're right. Arsenal they flatter to deceive, and I don't know what needs to happen. And the problem I see with the whole setup, people talk about Ozil. Ozil is a fantastic player, but as John just mentioned, within 4 days they go to Everton, they're winning 1-0, they're in cruise control. It's almost impossible to lose a game. They end up losing the game 2-1, even though they probably should have had a penalty in the last minute, lose the game 2-1. They go to Manchester City, same story. Go 1-0 up, end up losing the game 2-1. And I just wonder when fans, I think Piers Morgan is the only one, come to the conclusion that as fantastic as these players are, the parts of the Premier League, unless you do it for 10 months, it doesn't matter. You can be the best player for 4 months.
Yeah.
If you're an average player for the next 4 months or for the other 4 months, you're no good to Arsenal. You might be good for West Brom, you might be good for Southampton, or might be good for Watford. You're no good for Arsenal. And I hear all the talk about Ozil, about Sanchez, all these players. Don't get me wrong, both fantastic players. Sanchez probably more reliable than Ozil. People say you need to break the bank to keep Ozil. I'm not sure whether Ozil is part of the problem of Arsenal.
Yes.
Because when they're on, they're on. But when they're not on, they're dreadful. And obviously you can't win titles. This is why I haven't won the Premier League for, God knows, 15 years or 10 years. They have 2 FA Cups to their name. In the Champions League, they don't get anywhere near. They've been to one final about in 2006 or 7. And since then, I think the last 16, they've been knocked out the last 10 years. And they did spend money. It's not that they're not spending money. Yes, they built the stadium, but they brought some very good players. They brought a player from Madrid. They brought a player from Barcelona in. Now Mustafi and Xhaka for 30-odd million. So, I just wonder when that whole thing, or when people realise what could be possible. Don't get me wrong, Wenger did a great job, but I think something needs to happen there because they flatter to deceive, and it just happens every year. And if I ever in the next 2 or 3 years tip him to win anything, Eamon, put me in a straitjacket.
Okay. Just a final point on Arsenal, John. I mean, they have players like, for example, Theo Walcott, Oxlade-Chamberlain and Ramsey are 3 that spring to mind. They bought Walcott when he was young, but these guys are forever promising to be the real deal, but never really getting there.
Yeah, well, Walcott's been there for 10 years, Eamon.
Yeah.
And he's still promising to do it. I'm still talking. He talks a good game, Walcott, because when he was playing on the wing a couple of years ago, he wanted to play in the middle. When he played in the middle, he wants to get back on the wing. So it's not the position he plays in; it's him himself. And that, and I would agree totally with Didi or Ozil. He's a very, very talented player, as we know. But I saw him last year. I think it was at Liverpool, Arsenal. I think it was last year, and they were winning. Arsenal were winning against Liverpool. Actually, we were under Rodgers, and they were winning, and they needed to see the game out. And Ozil was the man, the best man, the talented lad to get on the ball and do what needed to be done. And Wenger subbed him. He wasn't kicking the ball, so when it got tough, he wasn't there. And I think that's what he's going to be like. He's a very, very effective player. But really, if you're going on to win things, as Arsenal would want to do, particularly the Premiership, I don't think you're going to do it with the likes of Walcott and Chamberlain and that. I think on their day, they can beat a team 4 or 5-0, Eamon. Then, as we see at Everton and Manchester City, when it needs to be seen out and a bit of character and a bit of goal, then I think they fail miserably.
Okay, now the biggest